Shocking teachings, the untold rise of Jacob's beloved son, Benjamin, the secrets revealed. In the dark corners of history, tales whispered in shadows often evoke shivers down the spine. And that's exactly what surrounded the enigmatic figure of Benjamin, Jacob's beloved son. Only 17 years old, he was the family's golden child, spun from dreams more magnificent than reality. Picture this, a boy whose very name sparked envy and belief. It was said that his coat glimmered with strange symbols, reflecting the light in a way that left observers breathless. Now, imagine those symbols emitting an otherworldly glow, pulsing as though alive, drawing you toward them, igniting unexplainable curiosity and fear. But that wasn't all. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves in a chilly wind. Whispers of his visions, vivid dreams laden with cryptic meanings, captivated the townsfolk. On more than one occasion, he had predicted calamities with eerie precision. Houses burned to the ground, crops failed, friends turned enemies. Some claimed he was touched by the divine, others muttered about dark forces brewing in the depths of night. Imagine the fear gripping their hearts, fingers trembling as they pointed toward the boy who seemed to beckon doom. The truth was, no one knew where his gifts ended and horror began. As word spread, his power grew. The local villagers scrutinized him through narrowed eyes, mixed expressions of wonder and dread clouding their faces. They spoke in hushed tones, trying to decipher what parts of him were human and which were tied to something far more sinister. Parents yanked their children close, afraid Benjamin's influence might seep into their homes, turning shadows into nightmares. And then, there were those who sought him out, clamoring for a taste of his extraordinary energy, longing for a glimpse of fortune through his dark revelations. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Still, the real mystery lay beyond the rumors and speculation. Why did Benjamin vanish for 3 whole days and return seemingly unchanged, or was he? His parents' concern grew heavier than bricks. Whispers had morphed into wild tales of other realms and unseen forces. The sun dipped below the horizon as fear gripped the village, hearts pounding with the promise of a night filled with secrets waiting to unravel. Now, Benjamin stood on the precipice of fate, and the question loomed, what dark truth had he unearthed during those long, untold hours? The village buzzed with tension that evening, the air thick with unspoken fears and nervous glances as the sun dipped below the horizon. Benjamin stood at the edge of a whispering crowd, his coat shimmering eerily in the twilight. A profound change lingered around him, electrifying the very atmosphere and leaving villagers breathless. Some couldn't tear their eyes from the strange symbols woven into his garb, shifting and pulsing like a heartbeat, sealing away secrets that had once slumbered peacefully in the earth. As night enveloped the landscape, those who dared draw close felt a chill race down their spines. It was as if the very night conspired to amplify their fears. Benjamin's return after 3 days felt uncanny, like a spell woven into the fabric of his very being. It drew them together, and yet, the gap of uncertainty loomed, endlessly yawning. Little Ruth, a child no older than 7, dared to break through the throng. With eyes wide, she gazed up at him, her innocent heart unfazed by the dread that encircled the adults. What happened? Where did you go? She squeaked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet cutting through the thickening silence. Benjamin met her gaze, a fleeting flicker of something unidentifiable crossing his features. Was it regret, or perhaps understanding of burdens too heavy for such small shoulders? He knelt before her, his breath hitching slightly. Ruth, he replied, words flowing like water, I journeyed to find what lies beneath our dreams. It's all connected. What we fear most can also bring us hope. Confusion flickered on Ruth's face, but the energy of his words reached into her soul, igniting an ember of curiosity. But the adults shook their heads. Murmurs exploded, he speaks riddles. He is touched by something dark. Fear spiraled, igniting chaos, and murmurations filled the air thick with accusations. They couldn't help it, fear births the need to blame, to lash out at the unknown. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, a deep, resonating growl echoed from the earth, shaking roots and reverberating through their bones. The villagers gasped, a collective breath held tight with dread. "What have you done?" A neighbor spat at Benjamin, fear morphing into rage. Two shadows emerged behind him, darker than the night. Their presence carried a promise of malice, eyes glimmering like burning coals. They moved closer, a storm brewing within the air, and the onlookers shrank back, gripping their weapons, a desperate need for safety arising. Benjamin straightened, his expression fierce now. "You must listen. I have seen a glimpse of what looms ahead, a reckoning. The choices we make tonight will determine our fate. Trust me, but not all should." A deep silence cloaked them, as though the night listened, waiting for the next twist in their harrowing tale. Tension hung in the air like an unfinished song, the villagers caught on the edge between dread and an unsettling stir of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they were only on the brink of uncovering the true depth of Benjamin's power. As the ominous figures drew nearer, cloaked in shadows, a haunting question lingered, echoing unanswered: who else had returned with him? And what unspeakable truths were about to surface in the village that had long nestled in fear? A shiver coursed through the crowd as the two shadowy figures stepped fully into view. They moved with an unnatural grace, their forms blurring at the edges, distorting the night around them. The air thickened with dread as villagers clenched their weapons tighter, their eyes wide and shining with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What have you brought with you?" A voice quivered from the back, barely breaking the silence that hung like a lead weight. It was Mrs. Thorne, her gray hair catching dim moonlight, frail yet commanding. Benjamin's jaw tightened as if the very question struck at his core. "We're travelers," one of the shadows rasped, revealing a face half hidden by a cloak. The voice was guttural, dragging like a heavy stone across gravel. "But no mere travelers come to your shores tonight." Suddenly, the air vibrated with an unearthly hum, a sound that transcended words yet communicated a deeper understanding. It brushed against their thoughts, awakening a mix of memories of forgotten dreams and hidden fears crawling back into the minds of the listening villagers. "Stop! You don't know what you're inviting." Benjamin's voice boomed, cutting through the cacophony of whispers boiling around them. He stepped closer, body taut with urgency. "This has nothing to do with you. Leave." The shadowed figure raised a hand, and the earth groaned in response, rocks shifting beneath their feet. "You awakened us, Benjamin," it said. "Your greed for knowledge disturbed the slumber. Now, the village must face what has been buried, and it won't end well for those who do not understand their role." Little Ruth stood frozen, her small fingers clenching against Benjamin's coat as though he was a life raft in a tempest. She looked up into his eyes, searching for reassurance, but all she found was the flicker of desperation. "Mommy," she whispered, tears welling as the shadows drew closer, swirling and dancing just out of reach. Despair settled like a fog on the hearts of the villagers. They weren't just afraid of the figures before them, they were terrified of what they might unleash upon their small world. "The past will not stay buried," one figure declared, voice echoing like thunder, igniting sparks of panic among the crowd. Ecstatic whispers intertwined with gasps of disbelief as darkness thickened around them. It felt as though the boundary between the living and the forgotten had begun to dissolve, bringing forth specters of sorrows and tales long overshadowed by silence. "Do you know what you've awakened?" The second figure snarled, raising its voice to drown out the rising storm of chaos. "The stories shall spill forth, engulfing everyone in their path. There'll be no escape." Fear coursed through Benjamin, igniting every part of him. He understood the burden, the weight of what he had stumbled into. If the village knew, if they could be made to understand what lay ahead, perhaps there was still a chance for redemption. "Listen!" Benjamin shouted, cutting through their collective fear. "We can change this. We can face the past, together. We must awaken these stories to find peace." He turned, scanning the villagers' faces, searching for anyone who still believed in hope, but as the shadows surged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching out, the villagers began to scatter, the resolve of unity slipping through their fingers like sand. The finality of their fear hung heavy in the air, as palpable as the darkness. Little Ruth, still clutching his coat, whimpered, "What's going to happen, Benjamin?" In that moment, a flicker of determination ignited within him. "I don't know, but we must find out together." Benjamin faced the encroaching shadows, heart pounding with uncertainty, but steeled by a fierce hope. The figures grimaced, muttering ancient words that twisted the air. And just before all was consumed by darkness, an unexpected flash of light erupted from the ground, blinding them momentarily. Was it a warning, a beacon, or something far more menacing? What was happening beneath their feet, and how was it connected to the awakening shadows? As the villagers stumbled back, the secrets of the village were teetering on the precipice of revelation. They were all about to learn that understanding the past could unleash something even darker than fear itself. What awaited them in the unraveling night? The blinding light pulsed like a heartbeat, a solid wave of energy reverberating through the ground beneath them. Villagers staggered back, eyes squinting against the brilliance that pierced the shroud of night. Benjamin shielded little Ruth with his body, instinctively protective, his heart racing as the shadows writhed in the halo of the unexpected flare. When the light faded, a figure emerged. Not one of the shadows, but something ancient. An ethereal glow surrounded a translucent woman, her features sharp and defined like the edge of a blade. Her eyes were pools of liquid silver, shimmering with wisdom and sorrow. She hovered, suspended above the ground, her presence banishing the encroaching darkness. A palpable urgency gripped the villagers as they fell silent, their gazes tearing away from the approaching threats and instead frozen on the new spectacle. "Who are you?" Benjamin breathed, battling against both confusion and newfound hope. "I am Ilara," the figure spoke, her voice smooth as silk yet laced with gravity. "I have come to guide you." The shadows seek to reclaim that which was lost through fear and ignorance. "A guide?" Benjamin shook his head, the weight of her words pressing in on him. "What does that mean for us?" "For Ruth?" Ilara's gaze softened, flickering briefly to the girl clinging to Benjamin's coat. "The lost stories are not merely tales of the past, they are threads woven into the very fabric of your lives. Only by understanding them can you hope to dispel the darkness that threatens to engulf your village." What of the shadowy figures, still looming, howled in anger, the sound a tortured symphony that struck fear into every heart. "You are a fool to believe her lies." "Quiet!" Ilara commanded, and the air crackled with a sudden, fierce energy. "This place is a tapestry of souls, bound by memory and choice. Fear has kept it frayed and in darkness, but you, Benjamin, have the power to weave it anew." His throat constricted, a lump rising as he grasped the magnitude of her words. "I don't know how. Remember," she urged, her luminance flickering with her insistence. "To face your past, you must first acknowledge it in your heart. Lead your village to confront their fears. Open the door to buried truths." Benjamin's mind raced, and he turned to the villagers, their faces drawn tight with uncertainty and dread. "We can't let the past take over," he shouted, voice rising above the din of chaos. "Ilara can help us, but we must confront the past together." A low murmur rippled through the crowd. Doubt clashed with hope, and questions swirled like leaves in a storm. Ruth looked up, her eyes wide with innocence and bewilderment, reflecting the struggle of many. "You cannot unite what is already divided," one of the shadowy beings taunted, mocking laughter bubbling up through the air as shadows twitched and writhed. "Benjamin?" came Mrs. Thorne's quivering voice from the back, the frail figure stepping forward, emboldened by Ilara's presence. "Can we trust this being?" With a deep breath, Benjamin felt the weight of countless gazes. "Trust is built in the forge of understanding. If we remain divided, we'll lose everything. The past will consume us whole." But doubt still hung on the edges of their conviction, as real and suffocating as the shadows that loomed near. Every second that passed sent tremors of uncertainty through the villagers. Ilara flickered, seeming to sense their hesitance. "Time is of the essence. Choose now, for the darkness grows more formidable." "What do we do?" Benjamin asked, desperation threading through his tone. A stillness settled around them as Ilara's eyes glowed brighter. "You've awakened the past. You must decide how to face it before it decides how to face you." A moment drew taut with tension as the villagers looked among themselves, wrestling with their fears. I in that heartbeat, with darkness coiling tighter and shadows tangling around them, Benjamin took a step forward. "We stand together." The air crackled with energy, swells of hope and dread intertwining. Did they have the strength to face what lay ahead? The shadows writhed, their whispers rising into a storm, drowning out all else. What horrors and revelations awaited them if they chose to venture deeper into their past? Would the village shatter or rise renewed, and at what cost? The ground trembled beneath their feet, the shadow swirling like a living thing, hungry and desperate. Ilara's translucent form flickered, her silver eyes scanning the villagers, igniting whispers of hope and fear in equal measure. You have a choice before you. Together, you can mend the fabric of your existence or allow it to unravel beneath the weight of despair. Benjamin felt the pulse of urgency in his veins. Ruth's small hand squeezed his tightly, reassuring, grounding him in that moment. What if we fail? He shouted, his voice cutting through the swirling darkness. What if we confront the past, and it overwhelms us? There is no failure in courage, Ilara replied, her voice echoing with a soothing certainty. Only in inaction. The shadows feed on your fear. Only by facing what has been buried can you hope to illuminate the truth. A collective shudder rippled across the gathered villagers. Mrs. Thorne's eyes darted around, fear mingling with doubt. What exactly do you mean by confronting the past? She whispered, fear dripping from her voice like rain in a storm. It means speaking the truths you've hidden away, Ilara answered, her luminous presence unwavering. You've allowed grief, guilt, and regret to fester, now is the time to face those wounds. Together, recount the stories that haunt you, the stories that give your village its essence. Benjamin turned, scanning the crowd. Faces familiar yet distant, those who had once laughed, cried, and celebrated together. We have to do this, he implored. The past has gripped us in silence for too long. We cannot hide anymore. But the shadows hissed, slithering closer. Foolish boy, one hissed, its voice like brittle twigs snapping in frost. You seek the truth, but truth is a heavy burden. Are you ready to bear it? That burden is nothing compared to what we carry now. Benjamin shot back, feeling a surge of defiance. We choose to unearth our stories. We choose to stand together. As he spoke, he felt the weight of the villagers' fear shift. Cracks appeared in the shadows as they hesitated, uncertainty washing over their features like a gentle rain. Ruth inhaled sharply beside him, curiosity sparking in her big, innocent eyes. Benjamin, she whispered, what if the stories we tell are worse than the shadows? He knelt beside her, a lump in his throat. We'll face it together, Ruth. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. But we can't let it control us anymore. With newfound resolve, he beckoned the villagers forward. Slowly, they began to step out of the fear that held them, one trembling soul after another. Mrs. Thorne was the first. I lost my son, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Tears gleamed in her eyes as shadows deepened around her. My guilt has consumed me, I never spoke of him. I lost my brother to the darkness, another man said, the bravado in his voice crumbling. I thought keeping silent would spare me more pain, but it hasn't. As they shared their stories, Benjamin felt an unshackling of the heart, every release a tiny light pushing the shadows back. Ilara remained, her presence stabilizing, weaving threads of their stories into something stronger, but just as hope began swelling, the shadows surged, furious and relentless. You're awakening things best left undisturbed. A chilling voice roared, sending a wave of dread coursing through the air. The shadows twisted around the villagers, threatening to drown out their voices. Hold on to each other, Benjamin urged, his voice rising above the chaos. Keep sharing. The more light we bring, the weaker they become. Fear and bravery danced among them as stories flowed into the chilled night. For every painful recollection, a flicker of luminescent energy pushed the shadows back. Murmurs of hope rose like a chorus, but just then, a dark figure emerged from the depths, looming larger and vengeful. The ground quaked again, sending shocks through their legs. What awaited them from this darkness? Would they be swallowed, or could they finally break free from the chains of their past? A loud laugh echoed, reverberating like thunder, as they felt the grip of the unknown tightening. What would it take to overcome the darkness that clawed closer? In that fraught moment, hope and darkness stood on a knife's edge. The answer lay just beyond their reach, and only by facing the deepest fears could they hope to find it. What shocking truths awaited, hidden in the shadows? The dark figure loomed, its presence a suffocating weight pressing down on the villagers. The laughter echoed again, sinister and haunting. Benjamin felt Ruth tremble beside him, and he tightened his grip on her hand. Fear pulsed through him, but he focused on the flames of courage the villagers had sparked within him. "No more!" he shouted into the oppressive darkness. "We will not be silenced by your fear." His voice echoed like a drumbeat, resolute against the chaos. The shadows recoiled, but the dark figure surged forward. It had no face, only a void where features should be, an embodiment of all their fears. "You think your petty stories hold power?" The voice was a slithering hiss, laced with disdain. "They are nothing but whispers against the roar of your failures." "Stop it!" shouted Mrs. Thorne, her voice cracking. "You don't understand. We have to share, we have to heal. It's what we owe to those we lost." Each word she spoke was laced with raw emotion. The shadows paused for an instant, wavering as the light began flickering around them brighter. "Yes." Benjamin felt new energy coursing through him. "It's the truth we hold that gives us strength. Share your pain, let it free you." One by one, villagers began stepping forward with their truths. A man with trembling hands described the moment he lost his wife. A teenager shared the guilt of bullying a classmate who had vanished. Each confession was a beacon, dispelling the darkness inch by inch. "Keep going," Ilara encouraged, her ethereal glow dancing like fire, illuminating their faces. Each story unveiled weakens the hold of despair. "You are shining a light into the abyss." But the dark figure wasn't finished. It unleashed a scream that cut through the air, an agonizing wail filled with the cries of the lost. The shadows surged back, fierce and furious, wrapping around each villager like chains. "Stop!" Panic surged through Benjamin. "Don't let it in." He felt the fear spread like wildfire among the crowd. Doubts flooded their minds. Representatives of loss tangled together, forming a living barricade of silence. "Share your hope." Ruth's voice rang clear, breaking through the enveloping dread. "The shadows can't see the light we create together." Benjamin marveled at her courage. "Yes," he shouted, "hope can silence them. We must do this together. It starts with each of you." Before fear could grip him again, he stepped forward and spoke of his own loss, how the shadows had taken his father and how they could take no more. Each word had weight, each breath became a battle cry. The villagers rallied one more time, their voices swelling like an anthem against the storm. "My father was a dreamer," one woman shouted. "He taught me to never give up." The shadows writhed in agony. Angry writhings tossed Benjamin's heart into a whirlwind. This time, they were stories of love, laughter, and memories that lit the path forward. A flame ignited in the center, growing larger as cries of despair began to circle it. Then, out of the shadows, an arm shot forward, reaching for Benjamin. It seemed to curl around his throat, icy fingers creeping around his neck. Panic ignited further within him. "Ruth!" he gasped, feeling all strength drain as the darkness sought to claim him. "Fight it, Benjamin!" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You're stronger than it." His world narrowed, he felt his breath hitch as time stood still. Summoning every ounce of love and hope, he roared with all his might, the kind that echoed within the very core of his being. "I am more than my fears." With a spark that felt like a jolt of electricity, the darkness recoiled, the grip loosening. He could feel the energy shift, the villagers pushed forward, standing shoulder to shoulder. But just as the shadows began to fragment, a chilling whisper echoed through the air, the voice of the figure deep and filled with ancient malice. "You may have pushed me back today, but I will return, and next time, you will know despair." As the shadows dissolved into the night, a heavy silence fell. The villagers, drained but defiant, huddled together, hearts racing. Benjamin felt the warmth of Ruth's small frame beside him, her encouragement palpable. "What does it mean?" he wondered aloud, staring into the darkened sky. "Will we face it again?" He turned to Ilara, her glowing form flickering like a candle in a breeze. She stepped closer, her silver eyes piercing into him. "You've chosen courage today, but the darkness will not rest easily. Its grip on your village is deep. This was only a step. As uncertainty loomed, the air thick with unanswered questions, Benjamin felt something awaken within him, a spark of determination ready to burst forth. What they had faced, what they had broken through, it was just the beginning. A promise formed on his lips. We will be ready. Whatever comes next, we will meet it together. In the shadows, a gust of wind whispered like a warning. Would they truly be prepared for the looming confrontation? With the past still haunting them, what secrets lay ahead, waiting to unravel? The air felt electric, charged with an uneasy stillness as the villagers absorbed the weight of their battle. Benjamin stood, heart thumping in his chest. What now? He asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Shadows continued to linger at the edges of their minds, a threat that refused to fade. Ilara scanned the crowd, her radiant presence casting flickers of hope amid the gathered spirits. We need to prepare. That whisper from the darkness was a promise, a threat of its return. We can't let it catch us off guard next time. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Fear mixed with resolve painted their expressions. Determination flickered in their eyes. Benjamin felt Ruth squeeze his hand tighter, grounding him. He looked around, catching glimpses of familiar faces lined with worry but resolute. Their pain intertwined, creating a tapestry of shared suffering and newfound courage. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the outskirts of the assembled crowd. It was Malcolm, the village elder. His gnarled fingers gripped a staff, remnants of a once tall stature racked with age. Benjamin! He called, urgency edging his tone. Stepping forward, he approached Ilara. What you did today, sharing your truths, it wasn't enough, Malcolm said, breathless. The darkness thrives on secrets. We need to delve deeper, bring forth those memories buried beneath our skin. Only then can we truly break free. Benjamin's heart raced. But how? What if they're too painful? Malcolm's gaze bore into him. Yes, they will be. But pain shared is pain diluted. Each of you must confront the shadows of your past, face them, own them. We must turn our backs on the fear that binds us. Ruth looked at Benjamin, concern clouding her face. Can we do that? He nodded, the flicker of hope igniting a fire within him. You heard the stories we shared. They gave us strength and light. If we face our deepest fears together, we can unlock something powerful. Maybe the darkness won't dare come back. The crowd began to shift, murmurs growing louder, voices overlapping in uncertain agreement. Malcolm raised his staff, and silence fell again. Tonight, each of you must seek out a story. Find the one buried in your heart that terrifies you. We will gather again at dawn. The villagers began to disperse, glancing nervously at the dark trees lining the village outskirts. Benjamin felt that same chill creeping back as the night deepened. Each shadow cast by the flickering lights felt like an echo of the figure they had just faced. You'll be okay? Ruth asked, concern etched on her features. I will, he assured her, though doubt fluttered in his stomach. They walked toward his home hand in hand. Each step felt heavy, the weight of expectations pressing down. What story could he share that hadn't already held him captive for so long? Once inside, he closed the door behind them, blocking out the night. He lit a candle, casting a warm glow that danced against the walls. Ruth sat on the edge of their bed, her eyes filled with compassion. Can we share a story tonight? She asked softly. Benjamin hesitated, the knot in his chest tightening. How could he pull her into the turmoil in his heart? What if, she pressed, leaning closer, we faced it together? A tremor ran through him. He had held his pain away from Ruth for so long, fearing it would shatter their bond. But the darkness had haunted them both. Bonded by their fears, perhaps they could dismantle it together. Taking a deep breath, Benjamin forced the words past his lips. It was the day of the storm. As shadows writhed outside, the candles flickered, casting long shadows on the walls, reflections of their hidden fears. Would the darkness merely wait, biding its time as they delved into painful memories? With the tale unfolding in the dim light, uncertainty loomed like a specter at the edges of their comfort. Could they truly confront the truth? Could it make them stronger, or would it shatter everything they knew? The storm raged outside, rain lashing against the window, a rhythmic drumming that echoed the unease in Benjamin's heart. He took another breath, steadying himself for the words that would unveil a part of him he had kept hidden for too long. "It was the day of the storm," he began, "when everything changed. I was just a boy, maybe 10, living in a world split by darkness and light. The village was alive then, a place of laughter and warmth. But beneath that surface, a shadow had begun to creep in." As Ruth leaned in, her hand found his, fingers wrapping tight around his. The connection eased some of the tremors in him, filling the air with a fragile hope. "I remember the wind howling, rattling doors, and tucking everyone in as if to protect them from an unseen danger. But it wasn't just the storm outside, the fight was in our hearts." He paused, sensing the weight of his story heavy in the flickering light. "My father, he was a man of strong words, but his eyes held secrets. That day, everything came crashing down. Outside, thunder rumbled ominously, as if urging him to continue. The whispers came first. An eerie voice, calling my name from the woods. That was when I felt it, the pull of the unknown, the curiosity to understand what lurked in the dark. I stood at the edge of the trees, and that's when I saw her, a figure draped in shadow." He clenched Ruth's hand involuntarily. "My feet wouldn't move, fear gripping me as if the air itself had thickened." Ruth's eyes widened, searching his face for the little boy buried beneath layers of fear and hurt. "What happened?" she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the storm. "I called out," he admitted, swallowing hard. "I called out to her. I shot a light from my lantern, and that's when I saw her face, the woman who haunted my dreams. She looked just like," Benjamin faltered, dread curling his insides. "Just like my mother." The silence that enveloped them felt like a blade, slicing open old wounds. Ruth searched his expression, an understanding dawning. "You thought she was?" "Yes." Benjamin interrupted, tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. "For a moment, I thought I could reach her, grasp her hand and pull her from the darkness. That if I understood her, maybe I could save myself. But, instead, she vanished, and I was alone again." The rain intensified, battering against the roof like a desperate plea. Benjamin's heart raced, he could feel the past clawing its way back into the present, threatening to sweep him away. "In my search for my mother, I uncovered so many horrible things buried in our family. Secrets that had festered like wounds. We lost her to the darkness, and then we lost ourselves trying to pretend it didn't exist." His voice wavered as he sat still, the weight of his confession crashing down like the storm outside. Ruth's grip tightened even further, a lifeline amidst the turbulence. "What if?" Her voice trembled as if daring to utter the thought. "What if it doesn't help?" Benjamin replied, raw and vulnerable. "What if facing the darkness only exposes us to more pain?" But it was too late to turn back now. The thought swirled, pushing against his defenses. "I can't let the shadows win, not again." Ruth nodded, her gaze fierce. "Then we face them together." Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside. The sound reverberated through the house, shaking them from the moment. Benjamin's heart raced, and dread pooled at the base of his spine. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, holding his breath. "Yes," Ruth whispered back, fear dancing in her eyes. "What was it?" They both stood up, the candlelight flickering wildly. Something shifted outside, branches snapping, something moving in the dark. "Maybe it's just the storm," Ruth murmured, though her voice flickered as uncertain as the light, but Benjamin knew better. The darkness was awake and creeping closer. "This wasn't just the storm." "Let us go check," he urged, taking a deep breath, feeling adrenaline punch through him. He opened the door a crack, the wind gusting in, chilling their skin. What awaited them in the night? Were the shadows really coming for them? As he stepped out into the tempest, Benjamin felt a pulse deep in his belly, a mixture of fear and resolve. Would they confront the darkness looming at their door, or would it swallow them whole? The storm's roar enveloped them as Benjamin took a hesitant step into the chaos outside. The world beyond the door was a whirlpool of sheets of rain and gusts that tugged at his coat. But there was something more. The tension in the air pulled him forward, a dark gravity he couldn't ignore. "Stay close to me," he warned Ruth, his voice cutting through the relentless howl of the wind. He felt her presence at his back, the warmth of her body a strange comfort against the cold dread that seeped into his bones. They ventured off the porch, each step heavier than the last. Gnarled trees swayed like tortured silhouettes, their branches clawing at the sky, wild and unsettled. He reached for the lantern, flicking it on. The wavering flame illuminated a path, but only offered a fleeting grasp of safety. What was that noise? Ruth's voice trembled, eyes scanning the darkness as if hoping to find answers within it. I don't know, he said, shivering at the thought. They trudged onward, the storm creating a sinister symphony, melding raindrops with the cracking branches. The weight of the night pressed down on them, amplifying every rustle, every gasp of wind. Suddenly, a shadow darted across their path, swift and silent. Benjamin froze, heart racing. Ruth gasped, her grip tightening around his arm. He expected the shadows to be mere figments of his imagination, shredded memories brought to life. He lifted the lantern to peer into the murky depths of the night, but the glow danced on nothingness. It's probably just an animal, he said, attempting to conjure an ounce of courage. But fear gnawed at him. What if it was something more? Before he could gather his thoughts, the shadow shifted again, whispering promises of forgotten truths that pierced through the howling wind. Benjamin's pulse beat in rhythm with the storm, a steady drum of dread that propelled him deeper. Look! Ruth pointed toward a thick cluster of trees, their branches bending under the weight of the rain. A flicker of movement caught Benjamin's eye, a figure, vaguely human, peeking from behind the trunk. Do you see it? He asked, voice barely audible. Ruth's eyes were wide, filled with fear and fascination. Yes, who is that? Don't know. Panic gripped him. The figure seemed familiar, but also like a memory slipping through his fingers. Just as he was about to call out, the figure stepped forward, caught in the lantern's light. Benjamin's breath caught in his throat. The face he saw was one he knew all too well, his mother's. The resemblance shattered him, gripping him with the weight of unresolved questions. Mom? He whispered, hope dancing on the knife edge of despair. But as quickly as it sparked, doubt followed. Was this real, or a cruel mirage conjured by the storm? The figure smiled, though it was more chilling than inviting. A flicker of reassurance? Or a herald of darkness? Benjamin stood rooted, as if the ground beneath him might open and swallow him whole. Benjamin, the voice floated through the rain, soft yet insistent. Help me. He stumbled back a step, the lantern shaking in his hand. Ruth's breath came out shaky beside him. This isn't happening. This isn't real, she murmured, but the shivering in her voice told him everything. Ruth, we can't stay with me, she said, panic spilling over as she squeezed his arm tightly. Don't let it take you. The shadows surged, a clamor of whispers closing in around them. Benjamin's resolve wavered in the face of this apparition. To reach for her could mean stepping into the same abyss that had robbed him of her before. But, could he allow fear to dictate their fate? Face the darkness, he repeated under his breath, finding a flicker of strength in his resolved fear. He straightened, anchoring himself. Come toward the light. He called out, challenging the shadows as they twisted around him. But the darkness responded with a syncopated thrum, and Benjamin felt the air shift. The storm had secrets of its own, ones he had yet to discover. What awaited them on this treacherous path? Did the shadows come to reclaim him, or perhaps, reveal deeper betrayals hidden within? As he took a step closer, he saw the figure hesitating, waiting just beyond his reach, beckoning him to choose. Would he confront the truth standing before him, or would he let it slip away into the void once more? The storm continued to rage, consumed by echoes and whispers that wrapped around Benjamin like chains. The weight of the unresolved hung heavy over him, as the familiar figure stirred an ache deep in his chest. Mom? His breathless plea lingered in the air, suspended in the tempest. Would he reach for her and risk being swallowed by the darkness he thought he had beaten, or would he let the moment slip away, lost to nightmares? Benjamin, help me. The voice held a melody of sorrow, a symphony of longing, a ghostly refrain that tugged at his heart, inviting him to step closer. But with each heartbeat, dread surged in his veins, battling against the powerful pull of his yearning. Ruth's grip tightened, her small fingers grounding him, sewing doubts together like a quilt of fear and courage. What if it's just another shadow? she whispered, the tremor in her words vibrating through him. Or worse, what if you pull us both into the dark? Maybe, he said, taking a shaky breath. But every shadow has its story, right? We need to know the truth. We have to face it. With every ounce of willpower, Benjamin pushed himself forward, inching towards the beckoning figure. He could feel Ruth's pulse quicken beside him. Fear was a tangible thing, threading through the air thicker than the raindrops pounding against the earth. As he took another step, the figure inched forward. Her face, so familiar, bore lines of anguish and kindness, weaving a tapestry of memories he had fought to keep buried. Benjamin, she said again, the wind carrying the words with a haunting urgency, you're not alone. You never were. But the shadows around him writhed, drowning out her light, the darkness hissing with contempt and fury. Don't listen. They screeched. You only seek to be trapped again. No. Benjamin shouted, halting in defiance. You're just echoes of fear. My past does not own me. A tingling warmth surged within him, ignited by the certainty that he had the right to break free, to disentangle himself from the web woven by shadows. He turned to Ruth and took her hand fully in his, letting their voices intertwine. They had faced darkness before. Together was their strongest armor against what sought to ensnare them. We can do this. Together. One more step. The two of them took that step together, unyielding in their resolve. The air shimmered as they neared, the silhouette of the woman ahead transforming into something more than the darkness had painted her to be. Her eyes gleamed, piercing through layers of sorrow. I'm here to guide you, but you must confront what you fear. With a flicker of determination, they approached. Tell us a story, Benjamin urged aloud, voice steady. We need to understand. A shudder coursed through the wind, and the shadows recoiled, crumbling at the edges. The woman nodded, her ghostly figure becoming clearer, revealing a face etched with the wisdom of time. The storm that took you, its origins lie here, she murmured, gesturing to the ground beneath them. But you must not only hear it, you must live it, feel it. Only then will you harness what lies within. The clouds roared, and the ground vibrated beneath their feet. Breathe, Benjamin. Ruth. The woman urged. Feel the storm, and let it teach you. As the tempest howled, Benjamin and Ruth locked eyes, a fleeting connection swirling between them like light breaking through clouds. There the storm wasn't simply chaos, it was learning, a powerful wind whispering tales that ebbed and flowed like tides. As if the earth understood their resolve, memories surged forward, crashing into them like waves, intense, painful, beautiful. The laughter of his mother blended with the sadness of loss, the joy of the past twisting with the pain of her absence. But it was a years-old wound, a dream tinged heavy with sorrow, and as they stood at the crossroads where fear met love, warmth bloomed in his heart. You taught me to fight, Mom. To dream beyond the shadows. To find beauty when the world turns dark. Believe, she beckoned. Stories thrive on courage. Tell your truths. It's time to heal. Benjamin felt the collective weight of the village pressing in, the sorrow, the loss, the unspoken fears that had been swept beneath years of silence. Together, he shouted against the raging storm, let us share our stories. Let us rise. His voice sliced through the clamor like a blade, and shadows shifted, revealing fragments of the villagers' stories echoing back the anguish, the loss, woven threads of their history begging to be known. One by one, the villagers came. They grabbed hold of memories lost in the storms of silence. As they felt their voices swell like a rising tide, the burdens lifted like fog under the sun, illuminating dark corners with hidden truths. They spoke of loss, of love, of bonds forged. Stories melted into one another, each recognition drawing more strength from the collective spirit. I lost my sister. A man cried, tears glistening against his weathered face. I thought keeping quiet would spare more pain, but it never left. I lost my home when they turned away. Shouted a woman, her voice raw as she shared sorrows that had lingered in her heart for too long. With each story unveiled, the shadows fell back, the darkness retreating into its chambers. It shrieked in frustration, yet its cries faded amidst the fervor of newfound triumph. Together, they shaped the atmosphere, solidifying their connection, tethered by shared grief and hope. Feel the truth. Benjamin urged, his voice a clarion call. We have the strength to stand. Together. Today, Ruth added, a small light in her eyes, we face the past and take back our power. The woman's visage transformed, fading into the storm. You carry my love. You have my blessing. Trust in yourselves. With her words echoing in their hearts, fog lifted, the village transformed. The storm subsided, revealing a sky painted in twilight colors. The air lightened with the dawning of a new beginning, the weight of fear dissipating like morning dew. The last remnants of the shadows receded into the past. Benjamin felt a tightness in his chest loosen. They stood together, villagers united, hands linked, breathing in deep, fresh air. The storm had not broken them, it had freed them. The townsfolk, their faces weary but filled with resolute spirit, looked at one another with hope, the glimmer of dawn lifting their shadows, and then, a soft voice broke through the stillness. We are ready. What comes next? The question hung expectantly, each heart resonating with the promise of tomorrow, every heart bared, every sacrifice cherished. Benjamin's spirit surged as he met each gaze. We are ready to weave new stories, he announced, casting a radiant smile, hope lighting across each face. We will keep telling, facing the darkness, embracing the light. The promise of renewal was tangible, almost electric in the air. Together, they had broken through the tapestry of their histories, emerging stronger than ever before as the sun began to rise. Time was indeed hanging in balance, but they would face it, unbowed and unbroken. As dawn broke over the horizon, hues of gold spilled warmth across the land, signaling not only an end, but a brand new beginning. Benjamin felt something shift within. A burgeoning sense of purpose was locked and loaded. The future awaited. This was their home. Their stories would fill the village anew. And they would walk forward, hand in hand, fearlessly into the light. Before you head out, I have a mission for you. You need to subscribe right now if you don't want to miss what happens next. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let it soar. Your interactions are what keep this community alive, so flood that comments section with your thoughts on this epic conclusion. Let us hear your reactions and theories, share your stories. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey with us. This is the moment to show your support. Let's grow stronger together.